Hey, what's up, geeks? So before I actually get started, I want to make sure we have a good amount of people watching, or at least somebody's watching this live right now. Okay. Before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I inform people on the Discord. Okay. Just responding to somebody's comment right now. We'll give this a few more minutes and then I'm going to get started. So just bear with me. If you're watching the rewind of this, the re-recorded version of this, just go ahead and fast forward. At the 5-minute mark, I'll actually get started. Hey, what's up, man? You've been supporting me for about 2 years now. If you don't mind me asking, like, what's your actual name? I want to make you a moderator. I'm not sure how to actually. Yeah, I'm gonna make you a moderator, man, because you've been here since day one. Your support for me has been strong. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Let's see. Add. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started. All right, so well, obviously, man, you're the only one that's in here. You know me. I'm sure people linger in. But hey, my name is Darron Brown. I'm the lead React Native developer for PeerSpace. I have over 6 years of React Native experience. And yeah, I'm also the founder of GeekMODE.tech. The purpose of the school is to help you learn React Native and give you the skills that you need to become a professional React Native developer. Now, in this video today, we're going to finish our beginner React Native application. Only thing I have to do in this app is actually have, when we select the article pops up and you can actually read the article from the mobile application. Now, after I'm done building our mobile application, I'm going to go ahead and show you my LinkedIn. In the last live React Native session that we had, I briefly showed you my LinkedIn. We took a look at some of the job offers I have now. One of the common questions that I see on YouTube is how much do software developers get paid? And in last week's video, there was a job that was proposed to me that was 160K. Now I make well over 160K. But the purpose of covering my LinkedIn today, I want to give you an idea of how much money you should expect throughout your experience as a software developer and what you should be asking for. So make sure you tune in for that. So anyways, let me go ahead and I'm going to get this. I'm going to show you my screen so we can get started. Make sure I don't have anything crazy on here. Okay, everything looks good. So present. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm not sure when you got here, if you've been tuning into this tutorial for the last few weeks, but I'm going to go ahead and give you an overview of what I've actually did here. So if we take a look at our application, we created our application with, let me see, with Redux. So right here in the index.js file, it shows that we have our application is wrapped over a provider. The provider has a store property, and within the store property, we pass in the store value. Now, the store value, it exists here. And right now, our store, it contains all of our reducers. For this application, we only have one reducer, and that's the news reducer. The news reducer is what holds all of our news information. For those of you who have been working as software developers or aspiring software developers, just in the chat, let me know how many years you've been working as a software developer or how many years you've been studying as a software developer. Also, let me know if you have any experience with Redux whatsoever. All right, so right now, as you can see, our reducer, we have one reducer. And using Redux Toolkit, if we're using bare bones Redux, we actually have to build the actually have to build the reducer along with the actions and the action types. But now with Redux Toolkit, it builds our actions and our action types and our actions for us. So it saves us so much time. So I'm going to go ahead to our new slice. And if we take a look at the new slice, we can see we have, we're fetching our articles here with our, we're fetching our articles here. And we also have our initial state. In our initial state, we have three properties. That is loading, data, and saved articles. We have one action, which is our saved article action. If I take a look at our saved articles, right now, it's empty. If I go ahead and I press on our saved article, this warning this pop-up will show up, and we can confirm that we want to actually save this article. So once we save that article, we go to our saved article screen. Now that article is saved there. We also have our API calls. We have our fulfilled, our pending, and our rejected. So I'm going to go ahead and open our React Native debugger. Within the debugger, I'm going to start debugging the React Native application. And as you can see, if we take a look at our app load, when our app loads, two actions are called. The pending, which is the action that takes place when we want to fetch the API data, and the fulfilled action is when we have when we successfully called our endpoint and we want to get that data. So if we take a look at the pending, we can see is loading is updated to true, from false to true. We take a look at our action. You can see that once pending, fetch articles pending, the state goes to true. Now, if we take a look at our next action, fulfilled, in the fulfilled section, we actually update our data, and our data it passes in all our data layers. So there's something else I think is missing from fulfilled. Yes. So once is loading is true, we want to make sure we're loading, we're grabbing our data. But once we have our data, we can set is loading to false. So it looks like I forgot to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. The way we update our state is that we actually use our state property and or our state parameter, and then we reference our is loading. We set this to false. So I'm going to save that. Now, when we go back to I check out our debugger, pending is true. Then once it's fulfilled, is loading is returned back to false. And our data now populates and it shows this is what we're seeing on our screen. Now there's one more step. Now this is more an advanced concept, but with React Native, something that's pretty cool that I think I strongly advise you guys to use is to use selectors. Now by default, React comes with one selector, that is the use selector. So I'm gonna go into my home screen. And if we take a look at the home screen, here we're bringing in our use selector hook. And this allows us to select data from our reducer or from our root state, from our application state store. And here I have a selector that I custom built. It's the select news articles. Now, once I go into that, you can see we're using our create selector function. And we're also grabbing our data. We're grabbing our data from the store right here, select data. And then we also are getting our select saved articles here. So for this reducer, we actually don't need it. But here you can see we're passing in our select data selector. And then once we have that, we're mutating the data. So we're mutating our data to return a image, author, title, etc. So if I take a look at what we have here, let me see our state. Well, hold on. I have to take a look at what we're getting from, where's this at? In our home screen. So in the home screen, if I go ahead and I console log news articles, I'm gonna take a look at the chat in a second. So I'll take a look at our news articles and I'm gonna console log this. My debugger. Now you can see the news articles, it only has 3 properties, our author, image, and title. But if we take a look at our fulfilled, our payload and fulfilled, it actually sends us all this data right here, all this unnecessary data. All we really want is our articles. But if I open up one of the properties, you can see it has a bunch of different properties that came with it. We don't need all of this for our application. So using our selector, I was able to mutate that information and only return the values that I needed, which is the author, the image, and the title. Okay. So let me take a look at the chat. Hey, what's up, Jerry? Thanks for tuning in. Jerry's been a long-time supporter. Hey, what's up, Reg? It's finally nice to meet you. Okay, Amir, that's what's up. Okay, awesome. Hey, well, thanks for tuning in. So I'm gonna hurry up and I'm gonna wrap up this application because I really want to answer some of you guys' questions related to React Native or related to software development in general. I'm glad we have some experienced developers watching this as well. All right, so anyways, close this. I'm gonna close some of these tabs because this can confuse me from time to time. All right. So what we want to do is once we click on this article, we press this here, we want to save our article and we also want to open the article. All right. So right now, when we press, the only function that's being called is this dispatch. But we want to call actually 2 functions. Well, we want to make 2 calls. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to import Modal from React. And I'm going to Google the Modal. Now, I don't know all this stuff off the top of my head, but this is usually how I code on a daily basis. Most of these components I'm really familiar with, so I have to do this. But the Modal, something I don't use that much, I have to reference the website sometime. And I strongly advise you do the same thing. So I'm going to bring in Beef State from React. All right, awesome. And then I'm going to grab the modal. Okay, cool. Instead of slide, I want this to be a fade. And request closed. Add some styling. Modal container. Value flex 1. Background color. I'm gonna go ahead and make this just right now, just red. I want to see how it looks. So go ahead, remove this. Styles, that modal container. By default, the modal is false. Make this true by default. All right, so cool. That's exactly what I was looking for. We don't have safe area view right now, but I really don't think that actually we're going to need this. So I'm going to say safe area view. Hold on 1 second. Okay, cool. So right now we have our modal open. I need a way to actually close our modal. So I'm going to go ahead and update this right here to do, I'm going to say set visible, and I'm going to take its previous state. And I'm going to set the previous state to its opposite. Default, and I'll keep it this for right now. We already have touchable opacity. I'm actually going to use pressable because right now React is going to deprecate touchable opacity in the future. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but I think it's wise to get familiar with using pressable. Okay. I'm going to create a close button style. Width 100%. And the height, I'll give this, it really doesn't have to be pretty, but I'll get the height, make it height, I'll make it 30. Background color, black. Close button text. White. Also, Jerry, if you're still watching this, I tried the application that you sent to me, and for whatever reason, I was stuck in loading. I can, if there's any advice you have for me, just go ahead and message. Yeah, just send it to me. Message here in this chat, and I'll check it out when I have the time. Text. Let's say close. And align items. Specify content. Okay, cool. And actually, I want to make this. I'll give it some padding left of this 16. Cool. So if I close this, so this button isn't actually active right now. So on press, get the Modal visible, get my previous state. I'm going to flip this as well. It's a previous state. Okay, cool. If I open this, save article. Okay, and it opens. All right, awesome. That's what we want. So right now we have this like ugly red at the top. I forgot how you actually do this. I'm gonna go ahead. I believe it's like this. So we add another safe area view. Area view. May have to Google this part, but let me see. Style, color. All right, see here. Okay, there it goes. It was something like that. Okay, cool. Now the next thing we're going to go ahead and do, we have to actually show our article. So first thing, right now React Native doesn't come with a component that allows you to do that. So in order to do that, we have to do web view. So I have to install web view React Native. So web view used to be available in React Native, but it was deprecated years ago, at least like 3 years ago, at least. So right now there's a, let me see, React, I believe it's React Native. Yes, there's developers that maintain the React Native community dependency, and it has all these deprecated components. So that's where you can find all this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import this. So where is it? Usually they give you the command to just like build it. So React Native Web View. So add. I'm not sure if I have to do a pod install. We're going to find out. If it breaks, then I have to do a pod install. I just don't want to do it because if I do that now, I have to rebuild the entire application, and I would prefer not to. Okay, so it's recognizing it. Now we have our web view. Copy what we have here. It's our web view right there. And now let's see what happens. So it's not found in UI manager. So let me check this out. I believe I have to do pod install. I was trying not to do that. So pod install. Yep, definitely have to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop what we have here. Let's see. Force quit. Yeah, whenever you run pod install, you have to like rebuild the application again from scratch because it caches everything that you had before. So Let me run that again. Start the Metro Bundler. Start. Okay, cool. Now I have to restart the application. So I'm going to stop sharing. I want to see if there's any kind of no action, any kind of questions, anything. Nope. Hey, Amir, what have you done as a software developer? Are you working web? Are you a React Native or Angular developer? Are you full stack? Do you do back end? What's the deal? And also Reggie, man, you earned the mod, man. You've been supporting me for a minute. Also, Jerry has been supporting me too. I'm gonna make Jerry a mod as well. If I can find out. Hmm. Okay, that's what's up. It shows y'all on here, man, but I'm not even sure if this is if it's still running. It should be showing you guys. Okay, cool. Thank you for commenting, Reggie, man. I was wondering if everything was still running live or not. But Reggie, ironically, my middle name is Reginald, so my family calls me Reggie. So that's cool to know. Think let me go on some of these comments that I look at. So for my boy Jerry, I think concerning the application, the issue is from the API. The pipeline thread that were used, their use wasn't stable, but the issue has been fixed. Maybe you can try with the last build. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, man. I'll go ahead and do that. But that's what I was thinking. I was wondering if you built the API locally and that I need to pull the API and then use your credentials to get into the application that way. But I wasn't sure, so that's why I messaged you just to verify. And then also, man, Reggie, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. That means a lot. You know, that's why I do this. I want to help. I want to build more React Native developers, but I also want to let people know that for whatever reason in the media, they say that there's not a lot of black people in tech. It's not the truth. I've been working in tech for years. There's plenty of black people that do are software developers. It's just there's not a space for them to actually be seen or for them to communicate and basically share their expertise. You get people from every background in software development, man. I promise you. And if you worked in software development, you'll know that we hire. Like I've managed teams in the Ukraine, I've managed teams in Bulgaria, and I've managed teams in India as well. There was at my first company I was working for. We actually contracted a group of developers from a company called Zico. I believe Zico's in Boston, Massachusetts. But yeah, I had a team of developers in India that helped me build the first application that I actually worked on. I was the only in-house React Native developer, and I managed a few guys overseas as well. But with that being said, and the contract work that I've done, I've worked with plenty of black software developers and designers. So, you know, just want you to put that out there that's it's a reality. Okay. So make sure, let me check if this application is actually running again. Also, while I'm building this, make sure you have any kind of questions for me because I'm here, I'm available, I'm open to answer any kind of React Native questions you have, any software development questions, or anything just related to my work experience or experience with working with other people in general. And you guys earned those moderations. Okay, so it's up and running, and it's saying that what is going on? A string must be rendered in the text component. I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at right now, because right now some weird little bugs showed up. So I'm going to have to work through this bug. If I go ahead and restart this, it's telling me a string should be rendered within this. So I'm going to take a look at all of our text, and I'm going to convert all of these to strings just to see what happens. Okay. It's one of these. I'm not sure. Say that. Okay, author. So is this a text button? I think we have a weird bug right now because this is definitely not correct. Saying that there's not some saying that basically the text component is not showing any kind of a string being used, which isn't true. So my guess is it has to do with node modules within the app. I ran into this before. Text, close button. I wish this will give you let you know exactly where it's coming from. So let me see. It could be from this image component. Okay, so I canceled out all the text components. This is definitely a bug. So go ahead and my node modules. Something like this happened before. I'm not sure why it happened. So okay, making sure everything looks good. Let me see if this resolves it. And I hate it when these just weird things start happening. Text string must be rendered within the text. So my guess is it might even have to do with the this web view. Yeah, so that's what it was. So the web view component that I'm using is not working correctly. Now let me see if I actually open this up. Okay, so there's a bug with the web view that I'm trying to use for this example. So let me take a look. There's a bug with it. So this is the current version. I'm going to check out because actually for one of my tutorials, one of my courses, I have the web view. Let me see. my GitHub. If you're not following me on GitHub, make sure you go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna take a look at some of these articles that I actually have, these projects that I have, and see if one of these will help resolve that issue. Player. Is this a good one? This from years ago. I'm guessing it has to be one of these. It has to be one of these versions. When was this released? Oh, so this one has been out for a while. Yeah, so this is some weird bug that they have right now on their end. It's saying it doesn't recognize this string. Take a look here. Source style URI. Okay, let me see if this works out. Yeah, for whatever reason, this thing does not want to use this web view right now. Come on, man. Web view is defined, but it's never used. Using the parent publish. I doubt that this is the issue because we already linked this thing. I figured that wasn't the issue. Yeah, I may have to come back to this because right now it's not even recognizing web view does not exist. It's like it means you got to link. It looks like there's some kind of bug with this dependency. Modern class, the projects might support it. Our web view. Okay, so pod install, that's already been there. I'm going to run pod install just in case. OS, pod update. This is going to update all of the pods. So maybe that will do it. Yeah, sorry about this, geeks. That shouldn't have happened. Okay. All right, so the pods are finished installing. Then do pod cache just in case. So pod clash clean. I believe it's all. Okay, so I'm gonna restart the Metro bundler again. Yep, clean this up. All right, cool. Let's play this again. Well, that's software development for you. I'm gonna go back, stop sharing, and see if we have anything in the chat. Hey, what's up, AD? Oh, got a question. Seen your video about is a necessary to go to college to become a developer. I read somewhere that it is the best to get comfortable with JavaScript before you start React Native. I would like your opinion. Honestly, I think the best way to go is to learn React Native and JavaScript at the same time. Reason being, when I first got into software development, I didn't know where to start. So I was trying to learn way too many different languages. And then once I did choose a language, which was JavaScript, I got the fundamentals of JavaScript down. I got HTML, CSS, and the fundamentals of JavaScript down. But the thing was, I still didn't know how to build an application. I didn't know how to apply functional coding to a web application or a mobile application. So when you actually build an app, so if you start as a developer and you're using React Native and JavaScript, it gives you the opportunity to build something, and then also it teaches you how to use for loops or your own custom functions, and it teaches you how to use those within a React Native application, and it teaches you how a lot of all that stuff works together. If you're just creating for loops and you're just creating functions and you're not building anything, it's going to be hard for you to apply it in the real world. And that's what I struggle with at like my first position. I was learning the coding fundamentals. I was going through all the different algorithms, but when it came to actually being a software developer, I did not know how to apply those skills to development. So I had a lot of anxiety. I want to say like first few months to half a year, because I was the most junior developer on my team for a few years. So I would strongly advise you to choose, if you're going to go the React Native route, I would enroll in GeekMODE School of React Native, because it's going to teach you how to not only build a React Native application, it's going to teach you how to use JavaScript principles when you're building the application. Now, hopefully this thing actually, oh my goodness, did that get it to work? Taking a look at the app now. Yeah, man, for whatever reason, this library, the web view, is not working right now. It's supposed to be working. It should be working. But I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's even like if I'm doing this thing correctly, because I followed the steps and doesn't look like it's not working the way that it should be working. React Native Community Web View. We'll try out one more different thing. React Native Community. What I think what happened is that the React Native community deprecated itself and then passed this application to someone else. And now the people who are maintaining it now, they're either maintaining it poorly, or they're just not something's not correct. So I'm gonna see if React Native community is even still exists. Community. At React Native community. Yeah, community CLI. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the React Native community, because this community may have been deprecated. Okay. And it's crazy. There was only just a little bit left to get this application up and running. Kidding me. Web view. Basically, what's going on, if you take a look at the website, it shows that it's deprecated. But then it says use React Native Community Web View instead. When we click this link, that no longer exists. We're on React Native Web View, React Native Web View. So my guess is the React Native community has been deprecated as well. Because this should work. Let me see, React Native. See, you go back. Install at React Native Community, React Native Web View. So install has been replaced with, I'll go ahead and add. Okay, that's there. Going to try one of these stable versions. It's going to be my last try. And if this doesn't work, I'm just going to have to end it here. Web View 10. Okay. It looks like it did something. Libs, Modal, React Native, Redux. Oh, this thing is just falling apart. Okay. Close this out, force quit. Wait, I'm actually going to clean this out again. Now let's start. So can I sign up? Okay, so right now you can sign up, but it works differently. If you sign up, you'll get access to all the courses. I'm going to go to the website. Now, since you're new to software development and React Native, I wouldn't advise you to take, if you do decide to enroll, I would not recommend doing React Native without the bullshit first. I will go in this order. First, I will go through the ABCs of React Native. It'll teach you all the basic React Native components that you need to know, as well as the different dependencies that you need to know, like React Navigation and Redux. From there, you can take, I would advise you to try out the React Native without the bullshit course. And as that, it gradually increases with complexity. From there, you'll go to React Native State Management. I'll show you how to manage your state using regular hooks, using Redux, old school Redux, and then also using Redux Toolkit. And then full stack React Native development is going to teach you how to not only build a React Native application, but you're going to build your own custom API. And you're going to host it locally and you're going to host it publicly. And I forgot the tool that I use to do that. But basically, you're going to connect your React Native application to your own custom API. So I'll show you how to log in users and also how to save different types of articles, etc., using your own database. TypeScript is more an advanced concept. A lot of companies today are asking if you know how to use TypeScript. Before React Native and React developers weren't expected to know TypeScript, but now it's a part of the development process. But I will go in this order. Now let's check out this application, man. So for whatever reason, this web view isn't working. So I'm going to have to stop this tutorial short and do some more of my own personal investigation. But this definitely should not be happening. Wonder if it can do it this way. Yeah, this definitely shouldn't be happening. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, geek. Sorry about that, man. That definitely should not have happened. I don't know why it wasn't right. Why it was returning that text error. My guess is something within that dependency in one of the different libraries. The text component is not used properly. Yeah, let me take a look. I think I might have something on my GitHub that may be able to solve this thing. Repositories and no, not commissions. See what I use for this one. Yeah, I swear that I did this in something else. Let's see, toolkit, source. Newsfeed. Yeah. But anyways, hey, if you guys have any more questions, make sure you leave them now. Stay on for about 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna have to call it a day. Until then, I'm still looking for a solution to why we're getting that text error. Actually, well, since this is actually doing this, what I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to do what I go over some of the positions for React Native right now on my LinkedIn before I close out. All right, so the purpose of this right now is I want to give you an idea how much you can expect to make as a professional React Native developer. As I stated at the beginning of this video, there's a lot of people on the internet giving advice on how much, basically giving advice and telling people how much they make as a software developer and what they can expect. I know firsthand what you can expect. We're going to go into some of these opportunities. And this one right here, this one is from, this is a sponsored one. But I have people that come to me a lot for React Native developer jobs. I want to go through this with you so you can get a feel for what you can expect as a senior React Native developer. So this one, I believe this is an older one from last week. This is 160K. So 160K is pretty good for somebody if you have about 4 years of experience. They expect you, if you are going to get paid this much, they expect you to know how to use React fully, use Redux fully. They may try to confuse you. Like during the job interviews, they usually want you to build an application from the ground up in front of people, which isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, honestly, if you've been doing it for a while, but that's what they expect you to know. They expect you to know React Native. They expect you to know Redux. They expect you to understand mobile app architecture. So they'll ask you about design principles, like say that we want this feature in the application. How would you build it? You know, what dependencies would you use? How would you go ahead? How would you go about it? That's what you can, those are the types of interviews you can expect at 4 years of development. If you're new to React Native, honestly, when I first started, my very first position, I got paid $85 a year. That wasn't normal. Usually people got paid like $60 a year. And this is years ago. And the reason I got paid more is because I was offered a opportunity in California from, was it BetterHelp, I believe? It was BetterHelp or somebody else. But I was offered another opportunity in California. And the company here in Utah did not want me to leave. So they actually matched what I had in California and put a little bit more, not a lot more, but a little bit more. So it incentivized me to stay here because the cost of living in Utah is a lot cheaper than California. So that worked out to my advantage. But there's people, man, I'm trying to think, I'm just going through all these applications. There's people who offer me about 180 to 200. So this one is up to 180. Whenever they put 180 on here, I always say that's what I want. I've been working too many years as a React Native developer. There's no way you're going to pay me 140 as a senior developer. I know that may seem high to some of you guys if you're not working as a developer professionally. I didn't even reply to this guy, but lead React Native developer. I've been a lead, I want to say twice. And it can be fun depending on what position you actually depending on what your goals are, and also depending on the company structure. The first company I worked for, I was a lead developer. I was responsible for many different hats, and it wasn't fun at all because I didn't have as much experience as the other developers. So a lot of people, they didn't trust my judgment on the React Native side, even though they did not understand React Native. When I was the lead as well, they had me do like UI. I was also responsible for designing the application. So that's what made it even harder. I had to prove the concept of the design. And then I also had to code the application. My code reviews were getting reviewed by people who didn't even understand the React Native ecosystem. But leads, the company I work for now, they're kind of putting me in a lead position where I have to manage younger developers, have to do the code reviews. I have to talk about design structures, but I definitely do not like leads because you have to be in a lot more meetings. And then on top of that, it takes up a lot of your time. Like I have this YouTube thing I'm working on. I have my podcast. I have a lot of things that I'm doing. And if I'm the lead, it takes me away from coding. And I only became a software developer because I like to code. But anyways, yeah, it's 175. I feel like a lot of developers, a lot of people on the internet, they just throw stuff out there and they really don't give you not only proof of their own experience, but they don't really tell you like the reality of it. Like you really can become a software developer. They say it takes you a year. You really can in 3 months if you have good mentorship and you work hard. I didn't get it in 3 months because I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn how to code by myself. I bought way too many courses, way too many books, and I just only confused myself. But since I've been in the software development game for some time, I know exactly what it takes to actually get hired and become a developer. So this one is for hiring for a #1 app on Google Play Store. Okay, so yeah, somebody came to me for 190, 200K. Yeah, man. I mean, I actually helped another developer one time on here. Let me see if I can find his name. This is a guy I worked with. He wanted my recommendation. But there's another developer here that's also enrolled in GeekMODE. He needed help find a job because of like the language barrier. Here we go, Tiago. So yeah, he asked me about helping him get hired. I took his resume, I pushed his I pushed his resume to a bunch of different developers that I knew, and he started getting job offers immediately. I'm not sure what happened from that, but he definitely let me know. And also some of those people, they actually said, yeah, so yeah, I gave her Tiago's information, and she said, thank you so much for referring Tiago. So definitely, if you guys you think that you're ready to work as a professional developer, just let me know. Let me know. I'll prefer to have like a coding session with you, because I actually interview developers at my current position. I interview other developers for React Native jobs at my current company. So I already have a good idea of what you're going to be tested on. So if you want to go through that process, just feel free to reach out. What are some of the requirements employers look for to get hired as a React Native developer with no experience? Damn, that's a good ass question. Good question, man. So when I got hired straight out of college and I had no experience, first thing I would ask is, what is your credentials? Like, have you went to school for computer science or anything like that? If you have done that, what I do have on my LinkedIn, I'm going to go ahead and show my LinkedIn again. Share screen. So my LinkedIn, I think I went a little bit more above and beyond, because on my LinkedIn, I have my degrees, bachelor's of economics. That didn't do anything for me. Nothing, just a waste of money. But I did, if you don't know, I played football for the University of Utah. So that's, so that pretty much helped me stay eligible for football. But I actually have a master's in IT. Information systems is information technology or information systems. They're basically the same thing. But to answer your question, if you have those types of credentials, they do help, but it's not everything. The one thing I would recommend you do is that once you feel comfortable React Native, make sure you have a LinkedIn. You want to have a strong LinkedIn. You want to have a good picture. Just have everything on there. Fill out as much as you can possible. After you've done that, what you want to go ahead and do is you want to create a website. Now, on that website, you want to have your contact information. The first thing it shows, you want it to show, and you want to have links to all your projects. You want to have at least 5 React Native projects. And when they click on the link to your React Native project, it should have a description of the project and a review of the functionality, and then also a link to the GitHub of the project. A lot of companies, when you don't have the experience, what developers want to do, they want to see if you know how to code. So at least if you have links to your repos, they can look at your application folder structure, see how you think as a software developer, and then take a look at your code, because that's going to help you get that's really going to help you get your foot in the door. And honestly, it shouldn't take that. It really will not be that hard. If you do all those things, it won't be that hard to get hired, because at the end of the day, once you're working in a position, you have the React Native, they gave you the title as a React Native developer. You have a community like this where you can come to and say, hey, I'm confused. How do you do this? I'm working for a company, asked me to do this. You can easily ask those questions. I didn't have anything like that. The biggest thing you want to do right now is to build projects. Now, as far as the projects that you build, you don't want to build a whack project. I would advise you to go to friends and family and ask them like, hey, do you have ideas for apps that you want? Or people who have their own little, or go to like small business companies and say, hey, do you want a mobile app for your company? And then just go look at their website, look at the website structure, and then build a mobile application for those companies. That will help you more than anything, because at least the developers, the recruiters, they can look at the company that you built that app for. They can look at the company's description, and then they can look at your applications code base, and that's going to set you far. I would advise you, once you've done that, once you built your website, hit me up on LinkedIn or message me on the Discord. If you're not in Discord, I'm going to go ahead and just put a link to the Discord right now. But message me on LinkedIn or Discord, and I can actually review your online resume. All right, so I'm going to put this in our chat right now. So yeah, go ahead and make sure you're following the Discord. And once you built your online resume, reach out to me so I can review it for you. I can critique it and make sure it's on point and help you make some money. What's that look for the mentorship? Yeah, man, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you guys learn React Native as fast as you can and start getting paid and building your life. When I first graduated from college, I had just finished playing D1 football. I had a workout with, who was it? It was the Seattle Seahawks, and I had a workout with the San Diego Chargers. And while I was working out, getting ready for my pro days and these NFL workouts, I could not get hired as an economist or an undergraduate in econ. You have to have a PhD in economics to really be taken seriously, and I didn't have the time or money for that. So the only job that I can get the fastest was a janitorial job. So I worked as a janitor for about 4 months, and then I did security. And then after a few years of security, I got a software development job. I taught myself how to code while I was like at the end of my football career. And then for whatever reason, the internet wasn't what it is today. So I didn't even think that I can even work as a software developer. I thought I was just building mobile apps, honestly, because I thought it was cool. Like smartphones had just came out. I didn't know you can get paid for all that. I had never heard of software development, and I was doing it as a hobby. It wasn't until like a few years into my I want to say my experience working as a security officer at the University of Utah that I decided to put until I decided to actually put my mobile applications there. Until I built a website, until I updated my resume to include all my software development projects. And instantly, man, the first company I had an interview with was Google. Obviously, I bombed the Google interview because it was just Google's a major company. And then somebody from Facebook reached out to me a week or two after that. I had an interview with the Facebook. I bombed that one as well, man. I'm not gonna lie. But what it gave me an idea, what it let me know once I gone through that process, it let me know how high demand mobile software development actually is. I had no idea. Before I would fill out a job application, I remember it would take like months for people to get back to me. I remember a company actually messaged me 10 months later after I was already hired and asked me, was I still interested in their position? So I feel for people who are in hard times, hard positions, and they're trying to find a way to make ends meet because it's not that much opportunity out there. And then also you have to deal with all this political and social crap that's preventing you from actually building your life. So yeah, as a software developer going into it, man, it completely changed my life. I'm in a position now where people can offer me jobs. I can reject the job. If they don't pay me this amount of money, I'll say, okay, cool. I do not worry because I know that the next day or probably within the next hour, somebody else is going to offer me another mobile developer position, man. Sir, I got a good question. Sir, I got a good question. Go ahead and ask your question. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it. React. Hey, Stephen or Stefan, go ahead and ask your question. Yes, sir. Just hey, get at me, man. And what I want to do, I want to have Reggie. What I want to go ahead and do as you're learning React Native, make sure you reach out to me when you have any kind of questions. But also, as you're learning React Native and you're building your own projects, I want to have live coding sessions with developers in the program so other people can see me working with those developers and we can build an application live together because it's going to help me become a better teacher. And I'm also is going to help you go through the thought process of actually building the application from scratch. So definitely, man, stay in touch. Hey, Stefan, man, if you have the question, go ahead and next, man, because I'm waiting for you to be honest. How long will it take to get through all the material? So I'm guessing you asking me about the React Native courses. That's a good question, man. It's not just me. I actually have another person working with me. He takes care of the analytics of the website and he does all the marketing stuff. But the way it used to be that you had to weekly you will have access to different types of videos, but then a lot of people didn't like that, so we removed that. So now you have access to everything immediately, so you can get through all these courses. I would say, man, honestly, if you're ambitious, you can get through it in a month, but I would say at least stay 2 months. The reason I say that, man, because you can, if you go through everything too fast, it's going to be hard to remember all that stuff. The advantage of the program is not just the curriculum and the courses. The advantage is that you get the mentorship. You're not just taking the courses. You actually are meeting with me as well. You can set up time apart, ask me any kind of questions, and I can help you along your React Native process. Because I promise you, if you try to get through everything within, I, honestly, man, you can get through this thing in about all those courses that I showed. All I want to say 6 to 7 courses. You can get through that in about 3 weeks, 3 to 2 weeks if you're ambitious. But I don't think that you're going to understand it in 3 or 2 weeks. I think if you give it 2 months, take your time to fully understand the concepts, you meet with me, you're building your online portfolio, you're building your projects. I think that's the best way to go because it's going to help you learn faster. And then you can be out of that program in about a month. I mean, about 2 months and then be offered. Then you can start asking for applying for company for jobs. You can hit me up. You know, people ask me, do I know any strong aspiring React Native developers? So I say, are you interested or do you know any other software developers who are looking for work? I can easily recommend you, but it's going to be hard for me to recommend you if you're only in the program for about 3 weeks and, you know, we're not communicating and, you know, you get it? Yeah, I think it's helpful, man, because if you're like when I first got in, I was looking at Udemy. I was looking at I don't go to Linda. It's not Linda now. Now it's called LinkedIn. LinkedIn bought Linda. But I used to go to Linda. Linda was the worst one out of all of them because Linda would give you React Native used to change so fast that people couldn't keep up with it. And Linda didn't have that many courses, and a lot of the courses they had were outdated. Udemy was better than Linda. Udemy actually had more people. People didn't maintain their projects, but you would have, because Udemy was so known, you would have other new React Native teachers like fairly I want to say fairly often. But then that kind of stopped at some point, and then like a lot of people, because Udemy takes so much of a big cut of like the payments, those projects weren't maintained. I was actually selling my courses on Udemy, but then I was getting like per sale, I was getting like $2. So that's why I stopped maintaining and I took a lot of my stuff off of Udemy. Team Treehouse, when I was there, Team Treehouse was okay as well, but they were more focused on like web and back end. They didn't have that many mobile stuff at the time. At least they didn't teach you React Native at a high level like my course does. Hey, hey, yeah, Jerry, thank you. And Jerry, hey, Jerry, I loved your I'm not sure if I left you a comment on LinkedIn, but I love your folder structure that you have for the application. It's obvious that you have strong development skills. You can be an awesome developer. I love that's what impressed me more than anything. Even though I couldn't get the application up and running, when I looked at your code, I looked at how you well organized everything. I can tell everything was on point, man. So you won't have no problem getting a front end mobile developer job. I wanted to know where you were from because some companies that are US based, obviously they look for React Native developers that are US based, but I have a lot of international companies reach out to me as well. So if I have an idea where you're at and what the company's looking for, I can recommend you to some of those companies, man. So just get at me. You don't have to get at me here if you don't want to, but let me know where you're from. The advice that thank you for the opportunity. What advice would you give a UI designer planning on going into mobile app development? Hey man, that's a great question. You missed, I'm not sure if you were on earlier, but I had mentioned that at the first company I worked for, I was a I was not only the lead React Native developer, I was also the designer of the application. So because you're a designer, you're going to have sometimes developers, they're just coding, they understand what the data looks like and they're getting that data to show on the screen and they're looking at the design of the application and making sure the app matches the design. But when you're the designer, you have like a large overview of the company's goals. So that's a big advantage for you. You have the company goals in mind, and then you also you'll having that background, you'll be able to it'll help you understand how mobile development works in general. So the advice that I would give you, man, honestly, I would go from because you're so UI, I wouldn't go too functional because it may throw you off. But what I would do is I would start, you already have the design background. I would just start building mobile applications that aren't functional and then just trying to make sure that you can get the design to match, get the mobile app to match what is on the design. And honestly, I will have you reach out to me while you're doing that because you can build an app to look, you can have an app look like a design in many different ways. But there's some things that you may not be aware of. You may not be aware of like the best practices. Like, for example, sometimes you'll have a design and on the design, it'll have like, I want to say the font size is 16. It'll have like the card size. It's supposed to be, I don't know, 200 by 80. You'll have things like that. But when you're building a mobile app, you need to make sure that the mobile application looks like the design on many different types of screen. Whether you have an iPhone Plus or you have a regular iPhone or you have an iPhone Mini, you need to make sure that the design looks identical on each one of those devices. And there's a way to do that within React Native. So while you're doing that, I will reach out to me. But the first, like I said, the first thing that I will go ahead and do, get React Native up and running on my system, and then just design something and then try to get your mobile app to look identical to the design. Okay, Jerry, shout out to Nigeria. Hey, Bree Power, man. I thank you for the super chat, man. I really appreciate that, man. You're actually the first person to throw a super chat. So I appreciate the love, man. Any advice that you need, just reach out to me, man. Definitely. Do you know? Okay. Do you know? Do you have to know object-oriented programming in JavaScript, for example? You don't need to know it. You don't need to know it because JavaScript isn't a type-based language. So for React Native, the biggest thing you really need to know, you need to understand what functional components are and know how to use functional components. I'm going to go ahead and open up my project so I can give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So right now, what you're looking at, this is a functional based component right now. This is a function. I could have wrote the same thing. This is an arrow function. I could do the same thing doing this. Function name. home screen. And this is the same thing as having this right here. I can go ahead and just remove everything I have here. Put that here. Yeah, and I can delete this. So the biggest thing you need to know as a JavaScript developer, you need to understand functional components. And depending on how old the application is that you're working on, say you work for a company that's been around for about 5 years and they haven't updated the components, there are class-based components as well. Class-based component, it was, man, I haven't done this in a minute, but it's going to be component. Yes. So you're going to do something like class, I'm going to say home screen extends component. Yeah. Surprised I still remember that. But basically, that's what you need to know. You need to understand what functional components are. You need to understand what class-based components are. You need to understand what hooks are. Most companies, they're not going to expect you to know class. This class stuff, this is outdated. It's old. Most companies don't care about this. You won't even get in the coding interview. They won't even ask you about this type of stuff. But there are situations where you may have to work in it because the app just might be old. So I would if I were you, I would go ahead, take a look. Google, don't spend too much time on it, but Google class-based React components, React or React Native components. Get a feel for how they're used, get a feel for how the state is updated, get a feel for lifecycle methods. Don't waste too much time on that. All you need to know, as I stated, is functional-based components. You need to understand what hooks are. The main hooks you'll need to understand is useState and useEffect because they come in pre-built with React Native. So companies are going to expect you to know that because you're going to use that all the time in development. And then, and then from there, man, I would just get more comfortable with JavaScript. Get a book on JavaScript. Just go through the fundamentals of what variables are, what functions are, what loops are. It's really basic stuff. When I started it, it was not basic. It was hard as hell. But I promise you, it's really basic once you get it. And you want to know how to use loops and all that other types of stuff within your functions. You want to get those functions to save on your screen. I'm going to remove. Yeah, because this is annoying me, and I'm really disappointed that that's even showing. Like the web view, I would not have expected this web view thing to be acting the way that it's acting right now. But if I go ahead and do that, okay. So really, what you want to do, man? I was asked earlier a question on functional components, and functional components. I was asked, should you learn JavaScript with React Native? I strongly advise you to do that because if you just take a JavaScript course or read a JavaScript book, they're going to tell you fundamentals like variables, functions, loops, objects, etc. But they're not going to tell you how to use all that stuff and to get it to work on the screen. The best way to go about that, honestly, is to build a React Native application while you're learning how to code. Learning how to have a variable called like const my name. I know this is real basic, but when I first started, like this was even like it took me a minute to know what a variable was. It's a container, but basically you want to get comfortable using some of the basic JavaScript principles, and getting things to show on the screen. It's going to help build your confidence. As you can see, my name is showing. You know, if you were to just learn JavaScript and you weren't doing any of this, it would only confuse you and you wouldn't know how to use it. But if you're actually building the application, you're creating variables, you're creating functions, and you're applying them to your screen, it's going to make you a stronger developer. The whole idea as a software developer, a computer can't think for itself. So it's up to you to teach the computer how to think. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if we take a look at this function right here, I have a save articles function. So right now, by default, this function, it does nothing. If I cancel out all this stuff, Default, a function does nothing because there's no functionality. So within the function, you have to tell the computer what you want it to do. So if I take a look at my first line, I want to tell the computer open an alert. That's the very first thing I want to do. So we've done that. The next line, I actually open an alert. There's an alert component that exists within React Native. And our alert component has an alert function. Within that alert function, we take a look at it. It has a variety of different properties. It has the title, message, and buttons. So I'm actually trying to open this alert. So yeah, I actually held command and I pressed alert and it opens up some of the functionality of it. And as you can see, you can look at the properties, the alert functionality right here, the alert type, this interface is looking for a title. It's looking for a message, which is optional. You don't need to know this right now, but this is basically TypeScript that you're looking at. You see this little question mark? That's optional. When you have a question mark in front of your colon, that verifies that you don't need to actually add that. So you have a message and then you have buttons. Buttons are optional as well. So that's what I have right here. I'm adding in my title, my message, and my buttons. I click here. Once I click here, you can see it shows an alert pops up, the title, its message, and then also these buttons. And I have two options. The first option is a cancel button. It does nothing. The next option is the OK button. And then within the OK button is where I add the additional functionality. This is a dispatcher. This is Redux. This might be over your head, but in the courses actually teach you how to use Redux and how to use dispatchers. But basically, that's what's happening. We're dispatching an action. After somebody presses OK, they want to save it. We dispatch an action, and we look at the save articles or our news articles. And I'll take a look here because I think this is going to help make things a little bit smoother. So right now, see if I refresh. Okay, so we called this action. I'm going to refresh this application. So by default, I mentioned this when I first started. By default, the application is empty. The default state is going to be 0. It's going to be no data. So when the app first loads, it calls the fetch articles action. When it calls the fetch articles action, the only thing that has changed is loading. Is loading is converted into from true to false. Excuse me, from false to true. Now, if I take a look at my action, we have the pending, fetch articles pending. You can see that state that is loading is true. That's the function that I created. And if we take a look at our action, you can see that pending, it shows that right here as well. It shows that our state is loading changed from false to true. Once it's fulfilled, loading changed from true to false because we already have our data, so we don't need to, we already have our data, so we don't need to show that it's loading. And then with data, we take a look, we can see all the data that goes to our reducer. So if I take a look at my reducer, you can see for fulfilled, is loading is converted to false. And then we're passing in state that data, payload that results. We're passing in all this data into all the results is going into our data. So if I take a look here, that's why data has all this information right here. So we take a look, see. I know there's a way to I want to show you. I may have to console log it here. I console log the payload. I go into my, I see this console. You can see the payload. Here goes all the information that we get from the API. We have the copyright, last updated number of results. That's the number of articles, which is 38. And then we have our results. So we don't need all of this data. So that's why within the code, I'm doing payload.results. And we take a look at the console log. We're going to get our payload. We're console logging the payload, and then we're referencing the results. And then within the results, it shows us all the data of our articles. So this is just like my quick review of what Redux does. Now, what I'm going to do, these are two actions that are dispatched, the pending and the fulfilled. Now, when I save an article, I have a saved article action as well. So once I press here, it's going to ask me, do I want to save this article? I'm going to say okay, and you'll see that an action is dispatched. The save article action has been dispatched. And now you can see our saved articles. We have one saved article now. If I take a look at the entire state of news, is loading is false. Our data, we see all of our data here, which shows on this screen, and our saved articles is showed on our save screen. And we get everything there. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. Do you, what? Okay. Stephen, wow, that's a good question. I heard that you don't, but like to hear Darron's thoughts on this. Oh, object-oriented. So hopefully that answered that question around object-oriented programming. As you become more informed with React Native and you're using TypeScript as a professional, the more OOP development is it matters. But I wouldn't really think about that right now. OOP, JavaScript, and React Native isn't really, it isn't made to be OOP, object-oriented. It's made to be a functional-based programming system. That's all you need to know. Depending on what company you work for, there may be a developer who there may be a lead developer that tries to make the application more object-oriented, but React and React Native is not object-oriented itself. It's functional-based. So for most part, 90% of the companies I worked for, I want to say 100% have been functional-based. They have not been OOP at all. So don't worry about that. I'm done with fundamentals of JavaScript. I don't know whether to start OOP. I'll move to async advanced level JavaScript before I start React Native. So you're doing asynchronous, async await types of stuff, basically making API calls right now. We're doing something with data. I would tell you right now, if you're done with the fundamentals of JavaScript, I would start building applications. I would start building a React Native app and go from there, because you really don't need to know OOP. Like, learning all this extra stuff is you don't need to know that much to actually become a professional developer. Those skills, those OOP skills, you won't even use them in the professional world for the most part. What you want to do is have a strong handle on React Native, APIs, because I promise you, during the interview process, they're going to expect you to know how to use APIs. They're going to have you actually call an API. They're going to give you an endpoint. They're going to say, call this endpoint and get data to show on the screen. So if you know how to do that, that's more than enough. The OOP stuff, you can do that for your own knowledge, but don't think you need to know that to actually get hired as a React Native developer. That's where I am as well with JavaScript, looking for learning more about React Native. Another question is, I use a MacBook Air. I would have to open an iOS simulator and code and later open up an Android simulator and code. Would I have to open an iOS simulator and code? Well, let me go ahead and do that right now. I haven't ran this application on the application that you're seeing. I have not ran it on Android at all. The code that you actually build with React Native, you can see that same code on Android as well. Let's go ahead and open. I don't think that I even built this application on Android. So we open up Android Studio. What you will have to do, though, is that you will have to set up your React Native for Android and set up React Native on iOS. And let me show you what I mean. If you go to the install React Native, go to React Native. If you go to the React Native website, it shows you how to set up your environments, Mac OS for Android and iOS. So you will have to go through this process on your own and figure this out. It's not that complicated if you follow the steps. But if you want it to show on both applications, you have to go for Android. Right now, my desktop, you'll have to go into your React Native application. And then once you're in your React Native application, there is a Android folder. You want to select your folder, press open, trust this project. And right now, what's going to happen is going to bundle your application. Let's see. Like your Gradle is actually building right now. So let me check out the build. So this is the Gradle that's processing. Yeah, I don't know why React deprecates certain components. Plugin with Kotlin not found. Compile Kotlin base variable. This is deprecated. That's not good. So let me see what happens if I go ahead and do this. All right. So now Kotlin Android, this thing's not fair. Oh my goodness. It's the issue with this React Native web view. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove this from the project because this is causing way too many problems. So what is this? Yarn add. I'm just going to remove this from the project. So yarn, move. Okay, cool. So that's done. That's out of our, now I'm going to have to rebuild this. This Gradle takes a while to build, man. I mean, honestly, as a React Native developer, people who are Android developers are a lot more comfortable using Android. But as a React Native developer, this is one of the biggest things that I run into is that as a React Native developer, a lot of companies, they prefer React Native because you can just build the application once. But if you're a React Native developer, you need to know how to debug in React Native, debug in Android, and debug on iOS. And honestly, the only way to improve your debugging skills is through experience. It just takes time because you're going to run into the same issues over and over again. And you're going to have to know how, you're going to have to know where to look to get things to work. So if we take a look, we can see that the Gradle has successfully been built. So that means that we're fine to actually run the application right now. So let me see the emulator. I'm just going to turn this off. And I'm going to run the command darn Android. Should be good to go from here. So hopefully this answers your question. You can build your application with the React Native for Android and iOS at the same time. Look how long this is taking. When it was just iOS, it built within like a few seconds. Mm. A lot of software development is just like sitting and waiting and watching, and it's taking up just being patient. You know what's awesome about working remote as a software developer is that you get like tickets you have 2 weeks you have 2 week sprints, and during those sprints you have like tickets that need to get done for the app. If you can complete all your tickets in just like a matter of a few days, and then you can just coast for like a week and not do too much of anything. So that's a pro definitely of being a software developer. You want to go on a walk, you can go on a walk, you can go to the gym. You basically have a little more freedom. So that's something I definitely enjoy. Okay, so it shows that the app has successfully been built. Now it's bundling it. And strict mode. So what is this? Restrict strict mode. Gary, I saw your I heard your notifications. Oh my goodness. So I have to do this to restrict strict mode. So just bear with me, guys. I've never seen this warning before. So tell me I have to go into my settings. So settings. Settings, and then I need to go to what? Developer options. Developer options. What the heck? Let me see what pops up. Okay, so somewhere here is having the strict mode is enabled. feel like I've been wasting more time getting over these like bugs and tech low issues. Strict mode. Yeah, where the heck? Yeah, I can't find this right now. I thought it was gonna be a lot easier than this. Strict mode theory builder. Yeah, this is gonna take too much time. But basically, man, you can build both the Android and iOS applications at once. Unfortunately, the strict mode thing is, I'm gonna have to dig into that. But basically, yeah, you can do that. Sorry about that. Go through all these questions on React. Or React Native changes your code to Android when the iOS is in. Oh, okay. Or React Native. So let me read the original question. Another question is, I use MacBook Air. Would I have to open the iOS similar in code and later open it? No. So no. The answer to that is no. Or React Native changes your code to Android when you code iOS simulator. Yes, it doesn't. The simulator that you use, whether it's iOS or Android, it has no effect at all on the code. What happens is as you build your application in JavaScript, it compiles the application in both Objective-C and in Java. So when you're actually looking at the React Native application on an iOS emulator, it's showing you the application on the Objective side, the Objective-C side. When you build it with Android, it's showing you the application with the compiled Java code. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, guys. So I'm going to end it here. I'm going to take a look at some of these bugs. So next week we can actually complete the application. That was just some weird stuff, honestly, that just happened. The Android port, I've never seen that strict mode little error thing, whatnot. So I have to look into how to remove that. But anyways, make sure you like and you comment, you subscribe. Also, thank you for supporting the GeekMODE membership. I'm here to help people learn React Native, and I'll just catch you next time, man. All right, peace.